Hello, Second Family. It's with great joy and anticipation that we shared with you this week that Nancy Frick is joining Second Presbyterian Church at the end of this month as our new Director of Stewardship and Endowment. I know that many in our faith community already know Nancy and her husband Charlie, but I wanted to have an opportunity to share with all of you and give Nancy the opportunity to share with you a little bit about her life, her story, her faith journey, and especially her sense of call to this opportunity at Second Church. And so with that, I am so pleased to have Nancy Frick joining me today. So Nancy, it's great to be with you. And let me say, both personally and on behalf of the congregation, just how thrilled we are to be welcoming you to this role of Director of Stewardship and Endowment.
Thank you. Such an honor and a joy. I'm looking forward to it.
It's going to be a great journey.
It is.
Well, speaking of journey, I thought we'd maybe go way back and ask you to reflect a little bit. I know you're a lifelong Presbyterian. Mm-hmm. I'd love to hear more about sort of how your faith was formed and the community that formed it.
Yeah. I grew up in Wabash Avenue Presbyterian Church in Crawfordsville from baptism till I went to college, I guess. I think that's where the seeds of my faith were sown. And I have to credit one in particular Sunday school teacher, Mrs. Lofstrand, who was instrumental in my faith because she brought such joy to her faith. I had never seen an adult exhibit such joy in their faith, and I wanted to have that joy too. So she really inspired me, and I've thought about her many times throughout the years, how much I owe to her.
Yeah. Well, and if I were to choose a word to describe how you embody faith, joy would be one that comes quickly. You have that spirit of joy and that spirit of sort of generosity and graciousness in all that you do and the way you live your faith. Speaking of words, I wonder if you were asked to describe your sense of faith or your sort of personal theology in one word, or I understand if it's a few words. What words would you choose to do that?
I think the first word that comes to mind is perseverance. I think my life has taught me that we have to persevere in our faith. So when things are up and when things are down, when you're going through a really tough time, or when God doesn't seem to be answering your prayers, persevere in your faith because God is there with you. And the other word is patience, because sometimes they go together. So waiting for God to act or for something to be revealed to you and how God is acting through you or through others takes patience. But I think and sometimes it's harder to persevere in the good times than the bad, because I think you could find yourself drifting away, not feeling like you need God, and letting your prayer life go a little bit. So perseverance, I think, kind of encompasses it all, that, it's not for the good times or the bad times, it's for all of life, and that we have to persevere, and knowing in faith and confidence that God is with us in everything that happens to us.
Yes, that we worship a patient and perseverant God as well, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Wow. So you are familiar to many in the Second Church community because you and your husband Charlie are longtime members of our congregation, and both of you have served in leadership roles in the church and certainly have been servant leaders in the way that you've gone about your discipleship here at Second. I wonder what about this community of faith has helped to shape your sense of call and your understanding of your vocation, especially as you now join the staff at Second.
We joined, I think, when we were 22. We had just gotten married, and both of us immediately felt a sense of home, that this is where we belonged, that we were so embraced by the people here, by the staff and by all the people that we met. We felt so comfortable, and we felt so supported and encouraged and uplifted. And then I think that made it easier as we met more people to get more engaged in the church, serving on different committees, deacons and elders. And one of my things that I've loved doing in the last 2 years is really working closely with John Kopich, my good friend, and walking with him through his journey of leading stewardship at Second. And that has been really fun. I've enjoyed that a lot. So it was kind of bringing together of my life experience and my sense of call and my journey to seminary, all coming together.
Yes,
So, yeah.
Yes. Well, and I know that maybe the only person as thrilled as I am that you're joining the staff here is John Coppage, and just how grateful he is to know that his good work will be continued by someone with your gifts and skills and experiences. And I want to talk a little bit, or have you talk a little bit about those, because I think about the call of Esther for such a time as this, and it really occurs to me that you have been called for this particular time in this particular place. And that has a lot to do with your experiences and the gifts and skills that you bring and the breadth of those. So as we think about this position as a stewardship director, someone who talks and thinks a lot about financial generosity, but generosity in all of its forms, you have led in that sector in this community for a long time. And so I'd just love to hear you reflect a little bit for the good of the congregation on sort of your experiences professionally and how they've shaped you.
Well, I have always felt that my call to philanthropy was part of the ministry of generosity. That's what I called it when I was working at St. Vincent and the St. Vincent Foundation for nearly 14 years. I feel like it's an understanding of the word stewardship, I guess, that it's kind of moving from the paradigm of everything I have is mine to every understanding that everything I have belongs to God. Yes. And when you have that paradigm shift, and it was such a pleasure and honor to work with so many people in the community who were so generous and had such beautiful, generous hearts. And that's how they viewed their resources. That was inspiring to me, and something that I felt is really at the heart of why people are generous and what it really means to be a steward.
Yes. Well, and I know that time has given you wonderful connections and relationships and friendships with folks sort of across the community. And as I've been able to share this news just a little bit with some leaders in our congregation who are also leaders in our community, I know how thrilled those who have worked with you outside of Second are to have you joining this team and this position as well.
So great.
I mentioned such a time as this, and I'd love to hear you sort of reflect on this time at Second, and what kinds of possibilities and hopes do you have for the stewardship life of the congregation or for the congregation more broadly?
Yeah. Well, I would love for everyone in the congregation to experience the joy of giving. Whether, everyone is presented with gifts, spiritual gifts and gifts of talents in their life. And there's so many ways that you can do that. And I think that helping people to understand the utilization of those brings, we're using the word joy, but I really think it does bring such a sense of joy. So I would hope that that's something that I could bring to my work here and that I could help other people to understand. And I'd love to be able to, I was talking to my son about this position, and we were talking about ways of giving, and he is someone who would never write a check, doesn't even know what a check is. And so I think we need to look at how people give and how people want to give in these days and times by era. And so I would hope we would look at those opportunities. But most of all, I just hope that I can stand in the gap between helping somebody in the church do something for God's work and the need that is met that way. So that is a special privilege. So. Yeah.
Well, we're beyond thrilled that you are joining our staff team. You bring such vision, such strong leadership, and I really look forward to seeing that vision shape and mold the giving ministries of this congregation in the months and years to come. And I'm completely convinced that God has called you to this place and this time, and we are ready to work with you and to have you join us on our staff team and session and commitment committee and all those with whom you'll be working most closely with. But thank you for taking this time this afternoon, and we look forward to sharing the journey ahead with you.
Thank you. Me too, Chris. Thank you so much.
Thank you.